I'm a 29-year-old man named Tim. Just a few years ago, I was engaged to the love of my life, Samantha Collins. A few months prior to that fateful night, Samantha had lost both of her parents in a car accident. She had used all her savings and money to get them both cremated and placed in separate urns. She kept the urns on a dresser in front of the window. Well, Halloween was approaching, and Samantha wanted us to binge watch her favorite series, the Halloween franchise. She was a big fan of Michael Myers, so that's what we did. We even dressed the part. On our fourth movie of the series, that's when it happened. You see, there were three teenagers that was all wearing witch hats, and they was putting candles inside pumpkins and throwing them at houses. Well, they got to Samantha's house where we were at, and they sprung their attack. That third pumpkin came through the window. It knocked over both of her parents' urns, scattering the ash everywhere. And it also managed to catch fire to the curtain when the candle fell out. A fire erupted and we was able to put it out before it did too much damage. As Samantha tried to pick up her parents' ashes, I slightly saw insanity cross her face for a split second. I told her, let's call the police. She said, no, I want to scare them myself. I thought, what's wrong in that? Cool. She kept her Michael Myers mask on her jumpsuit and she went in the kitchen and grabbed a big knife and she said, let's go. I got in the car with her and we rode around till we found her. They were at Sarah's Benson Park. She told me to stay there and let her handle everything. I did. But I wanted to get a good look at it, so I hid behind the tree. She stepped in front of the three teenagers and they jeered at her. They called their names: Sexy Michael Myers, Hot Stuff, etc. Well, one of the teenagers even went so far as to go around her and slap her on the bottom. I was about to step in when this happened until she did what she did. Samantha raised the knife and quickly plunged it in the stomach of the teenager standing in front of her. I froze in fear. I did not see this coming. The other two teenagers were shocked. She took the knife out and stabbed him again. This time she turned her hand sideways and slashed all the way across his stomach. I could have sworn I saw organs. The other two teenagers squeaked in horror and tried to run. I was frozen in fear. One teenager twisted his ankle and fell, and the other teenager was desperately trying to help him up. That's when they looked back and noticed Samantha was no longer standing there. Even I didn't know where she went. And while the teenager were trying to help the friend up, Samantha emerged behind a tree that was behind them. That's when I noticed the teenager that was helping was a female. Samantha didn't care. She plunged the knife deep in the side of the girl's neck. The girl clutched her throat and fell to the ground, shaking. Samantha looked down at the teenager with the twisted ankle and he started to beg and plead. She straddled him and she brought the knife up and then brought it down in his chest. And she did it several times, many times. She must have stabbed him about 20 times until the boy finally stopped shaking and I knew he was dead. Around that time, I had broke out of my fear and I was quickly dialing 911. I told them where we were and what had just happened. I noticed Samantha stood up and looked over at me. She tilted her head the way Michael Myers would do in the movie. I quickly hid behind a tree and tried to creep to another tree so that she wouldn't find me. All of a sudden, 3 notification sounds on my phone went off. I quickly tried to silence it. I could see her shadow walking towards me. I opened up my phone and I saw 3 messages. One said, "Where are you?" The other one said, "Did I just hear you call the police?" And the third one said, "You're just like Corey." I knew she was talking about Corey Cunningham from the Halloween series, insinuating that I betrayed her. I tried to creep away, and before I knew it, she had rounded the tree right in front of me. And she stared at me. And as I peered through the mask and could see her eyes was cold, angry. She quickly swung the knife and it slashed my forearm. As I tried to back away, she stabbed me in the leg. I fell, and she straddled me just like she did the other guy. I closed my eyes and waited for the death to come. The only thing I felt was warm liquid hitting my face. I poked an eye open and realized it was tears falling from the eye hole in her mask. She was crying. She stood up and backed away. She decided to spare me. Just in that moment, I heard the police yelling, telling her to freeze, do not move. She stood there, staring at me. Her phone was in her hand, and I saw a thumb typing something. All of a sudden, a few notification sounds came to my phone. The first message said, I love you. The second message said, I always had and always will. And the third message said, goodbye, with a kiss emoji. She quickly turned around and raised a knife towards the officer, and I heard 8 or 9 gunshots ring out. I ended up seeing her lifeless body falling to the ground. Word traveled quick in the small town of what happened, and needless to say, her remaining family didn't want anything to do with her after she committed such a crime. So I used the rest of my money and savings to get her cremated and placed in an urn. Now she sits on top of my dresser in front of my window.